Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Roerig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we got a bit of news to go over. We're going to talk about some Mario Kart 8 Deluxe booster pack courses. We're going to cover some stuff that's coming up on the horizon. And then we're going to talk about the latest episode of Moon Knight, Summon the Suit, in full spoilers. Let's kick things off with OnBeat. OnBeat is, of course, our news segment, and we're going to start with Hwang Dong-hyuk. He is the creator of Squid Game, is now developing Killing Old People Club, working title KO Club. It's going to be a movie inspired by a novel by Umberto Eco, and Hwang is promising that it is more violent than Squid Game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess doesn't surprise me. It's like how you follow up Squid Game, I guess. Go bigger, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Crank
kill
up the social commentary, yeah.
you kill old people, I guess. That's the answer. I always thought that was the answer to everything, right?
Right. I guess the jury's out if it'll be as popular as Squid Game was.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll have the same success, but we don't know.
It's kind of Squid Game was like a lightning in a bottle kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Next news story we have, Locke Key is going to get a third season, and that will be its final season.
Yeah, I mean, not surprised by that. Locke & Key it didn't do like the biggest numbers for Netflix. Mm-hmm. And also like at the end of season 2, like they're pretty much past the point where the comics end.
Yeah.
You know, they did the ending to the comics, and now they're doing something with a brand new villain, a character who's not in the source material at all. And I'm just thinking, like, how much longer can this really go on, honestly?
Yeah.
You know,
it's also, I think we both fell into the weird trap that between Locke & Key season 1 and season 2, we had basically forgotten all of our issues with the series and went into season 2 with like, oh yeah, there's all sorts of shit.
Well, it's funny because like the issues I had with the series was like the stuff in like the first few episodes of like season 1, and season 1 got better, and I was expecting it to go from that strength right off the bat, but like season 2 started with the same issues again, and I was just like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like Disenchantment.
Yeah, kind of like
kind
that.
Of thing. Or Disenchanted, I think it's called. But anyways, yeah, it's kind of a good thing that this is ending. It's kind of put it out of its misery, I guess. It's about kids growing up as part of the thing, so it's with child actors, that gets harder and harder to keep going, you know?
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's also why Stranger Things doesn't have too much left in it either, you know? Because their kids are basically adults now, all the actors.
Right, yeah, exactly. The thing is, like, when you have a live action thing and your protagonists are children, like, that has a limited shelf life.
Yeah, you know, especially when you take, like, multiple years between seasons.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, next news story up is that Bob Odenkirk from Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad is going to be sticking with AMC now that Better Call Saul is coming to an end. He's going to be in a new series called Straight Man that's going to be a dramedy about an English professor having a midlife crisis.
I mean, I like Bob Odenkirk, so, you know, I'm definitely interested just based on that.
Yeah.
You know, AMC's funding it, so yeah, it could be cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'm eager to see the rest of Better Call Saul, and then it's nice to see him sticking around with AMC and more stuff to come from him. Next news story we have, AMC, the channel that we just mentioned, has also greenlit a sequel to Orphan Black called Orphan Black Echoes. There's some details about it, but they're so intentionally vague that it's like, it's hard to even try to reword them and make any sense of it. Basically, it's going to be female characters connecting with some mystery is kind of what it comes down to, I guess. Did you ever watch Orphan Black?
I have not.
You're going to see the actress because she's in She-Hulk.
Yeah, I know that.
But yeah, Orphan Black was a pretty good sci-fi series, and so it's nice to see it continue in some form, I'm guessing with a completely different cast, just in the same world. So that's coming. Orphan Black fans celebrate. Our next news story, HBO Max is now considering 2 separate Sherlock Holmes spin-off series connected to their Sherlock Holmes movies. These are the ones starring Robert Downey Jr. And these series are also being developed by Robert Downey Jr.'s own production company. Each of these series, each separate series is going to focus on a character who is going to debut in the 3rd Sherlock Holmes movie. So this is like a whole connected universe play. Who knows how that's going to work with Sherlock Holmes, but HBO Max is like investing in this kind of concept. I think once like Disney did it with, Star Wars and Marvel started doing the series that were directly in the universe, HBO said, okay, since they had DC already as a competitor to Marvel, they jumped on it really quickly. And now they're like really going big on it because they had a lot of success with like Peacemaker, which was their first series of that type. So in addition to HBO Max doing this one with Sherlock, they also have a series based on It, like it's like in that same universe as the new It movies, as well as a series that's set in the Dune universe and multiple series in the DC universe. As I mentioned, Peacemakers already came out. That was like the first one for HBO Max. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So what Warner Brothers movies do you want a spin-off series for?
What Warner Brothers movies? I don't know.
They need to make a new like Looney Tunes movie. Space Jam. How about that? Space Jam spin-off series. Will's finishing retching, so we can move on now to our next story.
Right.
Which, with apologies to Koenig, Picard Season 3 is going to be bringing on many of the Next Generation cast members. They've already had Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spiner, and Marina Sirtis, as well as Whoopi Goldberg, have already been on Picard in its first 2 seasons in like small roles, like here and there they've popped up. But now they're going to have LeVar Burton, Michael Dorn, Jonathan Frakes, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, and Brent Spiner are all going to be appearing together as like a united cast for the first time since the last of the Next Generation movies that they did, which was that was the Borg one, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to
Nemesis, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'd be the first time that they all appear together since Nemesis.
That's cool. I guess like they were going to do that at some point. What's funny, like related, I saw the trailer for like Strange New Worlds, and that actually has me like interested in a Star Trek show for the first time in a long time. It looks neat. Other than that, like, I don't know. I heard mixed things about Picard. I guess if I end up getting Paramount Plus, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I haven't heard, like, hasn't been beaming praise about the series so far.
Yeah. I had it for a couple of months and then canceled Paramount Plus, and in that time I never watched it. I thought like, I'll finally get a chance to start watching some of this, and I'm just like,
it's like that.
Couldn't bring myself to do it.
And it's like the Next Generation is like, obviously it's a classic, but I don't know.
Yeah, just wait for some pictures to pop up. That'll be enough, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You just want a picture with them all together. That's all that really matters. And then the rest of, the actual show will be the nostalgia in your own brain. Our next news story is that Jason Momoa, Aquaman himself, is going to write and star in Chief of War for Apple TV+. This is a series about the colonization of Hawaii from an indigenous perspective. So yeah, Jason Momoa has just been doing a lot of different stuff, so good for him. I imagine this is something that's close to his heart since he hasn't written for TV before. And as somebody who's Hawaiian, that's probably something that's near and dear to his heart. So that's cool for him. Saudi Crown Prince and all-around monster Mohammed bin Salman now owns 96% of SNK. This is the developer, publisher of anything Neo Geo related, was it Samurai Showdown?
Yeah. What a terrible fate for one of the most venerated arcade like manufacturers in the world to like end up, being controlled by this monster. It's horrible.
Yeah. Well, what seems to be what they're doing is that they're investing in a bunch of entertainment companies around the world, and it's kind of like an attempt to get people to, hey, don't look over there, look over here.
Yeah.
We're putting out all these things we love, don't look at the dismembered body of a journalist over there. Look over here at this King of Fighters game we're putting out. That seems to be kind of the strategy at play, but just beware. They bought 96% of SNK, as I said. They also have some interest in Capcom and a few other companies as well. So as publicly traded companies, there's really nothing you can do. Like, it's not like SNK said, hey, Mohammed bin Salman, do you want to buy some of us? No, like, he just went and bought it because it's on the stock market, It's
right,
available.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing with Elon Musk buying, like, all those shares in Twitter.
Yeah, it's publicly traded.
Getting himself on the board, Yeah.
There's really nothing that you can do about that, but, if you don't want to stand up for the kind of shit that this guy does, then, keep an eye open, because he's making moves and buying in entertainment companies. Unfortunately, but 96% in SNK right now. Our last news story is that E3 2022 has officially been canceled, both the physical and digital event, and it really doesn't matter.
I've never personally been to E3, so I don't have memories of it. My memories of E3 are obviously back before I had access to the internet was reading the coverage in game magazines.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, reading the coverage on video game websites like IGN, and then eventually when they started airing
watching YouTube videos.
One of the things I remember is when they started airing the actual conferences on TV, like G4, would air the actual conferences, and that was exciting.
Oh, you mean when G4 had that panel and it was after the Nintendo Revolution was revealed, but they didn't show the controller, and everybody was making a big deal about how they didn't show the controller, and then Morgan Webb said, well, I mean, it's going to be any different.
It's if they're not showing you something, then it means something.
He said, it's just going to be the regular controller again. I mean, does Nintendo ever do anything different with controllers?
Did she say that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
She did, and then they had Tal from IGN was on the panel, and he basically cut her off and said, yeah, Nintendo does.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. That's why I bring it up. Just so ignorant about that aspect of Nintendo that basically every aspect of a controller, of the modern controller that we love, was a past innovation that Nintendo made. So,
right.
So yeah, when they specifically say they're not going to show you the controller for their system because it's different, it's yeah, it's probably going to be pretty fucking different. So, and it was. That was the Wii controller,
Nintendo's innovation was adding shoulder buttons, popularizing the use of an analog stick for 3D games.
D-pad.
The D-pad, yep.
The diamond button layout.
Sony's innovations are doubling what Nintendo did. So
two analog sticks.
Two analog sticks, or said two shoulder buttons. Let's do 4 shoulder buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nintendo did Rumble. Sony did Dual Rumble.
Yeah, DualShock, yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's in the diamond button layout, that's another thing Nintendo created. That's their thing as well. So, and then, motion controls and stuff, they popularized those, and those are still used to some extent in both Sony and Nintendo machines. And of course VR, those are a big part of VR. But yeah, I just think that this whole thing with E3 2022 being canceled, it doesn't really matter. We were talking about it a little bit before it, but it's in the era of COVID right now, they can't do physical shows. And if you can't do a physical show,
companies are better off. Like Sony, pieced out from doing E3 years before COVID. I believe in 2019, they're oh, we're not doing a show. And then people expected them to come back for 2020, but no, they haven't done an E3 press conference since then.
I think they probably would have if they had a physical conference again. I think they didn't do it in 2019 because they just didn't, it didn't really fit what they needed to show.
Right.
And then they probably would have done it the next year. Nintendo did the same thing. They completely went out of one of the E3 conferences one year before, maybe 5 years ago, I think.
Right.
Because they just literally had nothing to show. but they came back, because, and it's the physical show. That's what matters. That's what matters with E3 is the physical show. And if you just watch from home or read about coverage from home, like that might not seem necessary. But the whole point is that you have all the journalists in one place playing all of your games. That's the whole point. And if you don't have that, if you don't have hands-on time for all of your games, for all the like journalists basically and the video game journalists in the world basically are there. If you don't have that kind of event, then it doesn't matter. That's like the only aspect, because everything else, I mean, when you talk about like Nintendo's E3 conferences, like even before they did Directs or Sony's E3 conferences, those weren't actually part of E3. Like they'd rented out their own assembly halls or whatever and put on a thing near where E3 was being held because the journalists were there. But that wasn't like officially sanctioned through E3 anyways, those conferences. So the main thing that people at home would pay attention to from E3 are the conferences, and those weren't even ever really part of E3 anyways. They were always like their own separate thing that just happened to coincide time-wise, because if you're a video game publisher, you want to put all that stuff out when you have all the people at the same place at the same time. You take advantage of that. But without that physical component, because of COVID, it's completely irrelevant. Any publisher can pop up a YouTube video. They can release individual trailers. They can put together like a Nintendo Direct style presentation. They could rent out a hall anywhere in the world at any time of the year and do like an E3 style conference at any time they want. The same way Nintendo did right before the Switch came out in January 2017, where they did like a big international conference from Japan. Or like Sony has done like the State of Play events. Some of those have been like direct style, just video dumps, and some have been like shows, but they had no connection to E3 or any other event. They just happened to do them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just without a physical event, E3 is meaningless, is what I'm trying to say.
No, I agree. 100%. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there.
When E3 was saying that they were going to move to a digital event, it was like, but who would do that? Because literally, like, the way E3 makes their money is that people would pay them to use space at E3.
Yeah.
But who would, like, why would a publisher pay E3, the company, the organization, for space on their like live stream when they can just put out their own live stream?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's meaningless. If you're like a really small developer, that's one thing, but then you started having like, the indie showcase kind of events and things like that were all separate, where groups would band together. Or if you're putting on specific hardware, if you're going to be on Nintendo Switch, then try to get it into a Nintendo Direct or a Nintendo Nindy event or something. There's so many other avenues for them to get their material out there that actually being part of E3 is just completely meaningless. So once COVID ends, I think we'll see E3 return. I think you're going to see a bunch of articles going, will E3 ever be back? And it's like, yeah, once COVID ends. Once they can get the live event going again, E3 will be back. That's what's holding it back now. There's no live event. And if it's not E3, it'll just be something else. Something will swoop in and take its place. Because all the kind of stuff we see at E3, we had before E3. It used to be part of CES. All this stuff has been going on for a long time. It'll just be it'll show up in some way, shape, or form. But that's it for our news. Our next segment is On Tap.
What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap?
For this week's segment of On Tap, we are going to be discussing the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Pack DLC, Wave 1. So a couple weeks ago, Wave 1 of this big Booster Pack DLC that's going to eventually have 48 tracks finally came out. We got our first 8 tracks, 2 cups, the Golden Dash Cup and the Lucky Cat Cup. We got available. Will and I have played those tracks. Let's go through them in order. So first up for the Golden
I don't really
Dash
have like a lot to say about these tracks, but go ahead.
We can move on, and we're saving the best for last anyways.
Yes, we are.
So first up, the Golden Dash Cup. The first track is Paris Promenade. This is from Mario Kart Tour. It's a really pretty track. That's like the best thing.
Yeah, it's a nice looking track.
Got like the Eiffel Tower in the center of the stage. And
yeah, it's really neat. I mean, it's a short track. A lot of these are like really short tracks. Like they only take like a couple minutes to complete.
Yeah. There wasn't like a ton of work put into these. Like this doesn't seem as much of an undertaking as the original Mario Kart 8 DLC from the Wii U. But these are still like, it's cool tracks. It's like, they had to do something with Mario Kart, Mario Kart 8 is such a massive hit. They had to find some way to breathe more life into it because it keeps continuing to sell. So Paris Promenade was a fun little track. Next up is Toad Circuit. This is from Mario Kart 7. it kind of reminds me, it's a track that's got like traffic on it. So it's kind of like that one freeway track that's also on Mario Kart 8, that was from a different game. I can't remember what game that was from, but yeah, it's kind of like that, but with like a more kind of, it's not like a freeway. It's like a mountain path or something. It's an okay track. It doesn't blow me away or anything. How about Choco Mountain?
Choco Mountain's cool. It's a Mario Kart 64 track, and Mario Kart 64 had some excellent tracks. I think Choco Mountain was, I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, I think Choco Mountain was among the best of the Mario Kart 64 tracks. So it's cool to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the first time I realized they slightly altered the tracks to fit Mario Kart 8, because Choco Mountain does have the section where you fly off the cliff and then you go into your hang glider mode, which is definitely not in the original track.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I don't think there are any in any of these tracks. I don't think there's any 0G parts.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's any in any of these.
No, not that I can find. Unless it's on a path I didn't take, but no.
Yeah. Or it's just subtle and we didn't notice it. I'm hoping that we'll get some more, because I really like that gimmick from Mario Kart 8. It'd be cool to see in some of the feature tracks if that was added in. Our next track is Coconut Mall. This is from Mario Kart Wii. I never played Mario Kart Wii. Surprising to say, considering how many copies it sold. I've never played that Mario Kart. Coconut Mall is okay. It kind of reminds me of the subway track in Mario Kart 8.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the one of the DLC tracks from the Wii U version. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Nothing too exciting to mention there. And then that brings us to the Lucky Cat Cup, which has Tokyo Blur, which is from Mario Kart Tour. This is kind of like Paris Promenade. It's kind of a mirror to that track in the sense that you're going through a famous city.
Right. I don't know the full track listing for Mario Kart Tour, but I imagine Mario Kart Tour has several tracks based on real cities.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's more like that.
It's going to be a London one,
but
and a New York one.
Yeah, it's interesting. Both cups start with a Mario Kart Tour track based on a real city.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, the Tokyo Blur one's cool because of the way it uses the bridges as alternate paths.
Yes.
So when you go on a different lap, it will open up a different segment to you.
I actually like it better than Paris Promenade, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a more fun track. It doesn't have as recognizable of a landmark as Paris does with the Eiffel Tower.
Right,
but it's a more fun track to play.
True Bridge exists. That's fine.
It's from Mario Kart DS.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Probably not one of the most memorable tracks from that game. Sky Garden. I like Sky Garden.
Sky Garden's probably my least favorite of all the ones on this. I still like it, but it's just, there's something off about the physics of the mushroom trampoline and other things compared to what because we already have those kind of elements in some other Mario Kart 8 tracks, and they just work differently and not as well.
Maybe staying more true to how it worked in Mario Kart Super Circuit. I don't know.
Either that, or maybe they remade this track for Mario Kart Tour and then kind of ported it over.
Maybe,
and really only focused on making it look a little better,
Right? Yeah, that could be it. Yeah. It's DBA track though.
Yeah.
And next, Nintendo apparently saved the best for last, because when I got to this last track on the second cup that's available now, Ninja Hideaway, I was kind of blown away. I was like,
that's you're not alone in that. That's kind of the universal opinion. Everybody who's been talking about these Mario Kart tracks since this DLC hit has been raving about one track, and that's Ninja Hideaway.
Because up to now, I was like, oh, this is cool, this is neat. And then Ninja Highway is whoa, you have all these cool obstacles. First of all, visually, it looks fantastic. The way it's set up visually, it's cool. I like the little touches that suggest it's a Wario themed track a little bit. You see one structure has Wario's mustache with a big garlic in the center for the nose. I'm okay, that's really cool. And what makes this cool is it has cool obstacles. It's full of Shy Guys, which, kind of makes sense. They're kind of like little ninjas, right? It's full of Shy Guys. There are these ceilings with spikes coming out of them. They're rising and lowering. And then the best feature is there are 3 routes through the track. There's a lower, center, and upper route. And
which gives you a lot of verticality, which is cool.
Yeah, which gets you a lot of verticality, gives you a lot of ways. One of the best things is it's trying to get to the upper route and stay in there is hard, because you need to do a little maneuverability. You need to be able to hit the jumps just right to, to stay there. Yeah, I really enjoyed that track.
Yeah, it's a really cool track. It's the best track of the first wave of this DLC. That's pretty much it for that. But do you have any, do you have any like tracks that you're hoping for, or like things in tracks that you're hoping for in the next couple of waves?
Not really. I'm just interested to see what they do.
I already mentioned
I
want some more zero-G elements.
Yeah, if they could add the zero-G to like more of the older tracks, that'd be cool.
I'd also like a track with a lot of different paths. Ninja Hideaway has the verticality with it, but what I'd really like is something more like is it Yoshi's Canyon? What's the one that has like all the different routes?
I don't know.
It's one of the Yoshi tracks in Mario Kart 8, but it's got tons of different routes you can take. And I'd like to see another kind of one like that. Those are kind of what I'd hope to see some more of, but who knows? I think this is pretty much going to be like existing tracks. I don't think there's going to be any new tracks in any of this DLC. It's going to be, they're going to be recycling a lot of the Mario Kart Tour tracks that a lot of people don't play because it's a shitty mobile game and nobody wants to play those. And then it's going to take basically like the rest of the significant tracks from the entire franchise, basically, I think. So by the time it's done, it's going to have kind of like all the worthwhile Mario Kart tracks on it, I imagine. All the worthwhile existing Mario Kart tracks. But that's cool. Yeah, let's move on. Our next segment is On the Horizon. On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff that's coming up in the next week or so. So we're going to be starting off on Sunday, April 10th. 61st Street comes to AMC. This is a new crime drama. It's produced by Michael B. Jordan. It's a crime drama. The people that created this show, besides not Michael B. Jordan, but the other producers involved in the show, created a British series. I think it was called Criminal Intent or something, Criminal Justice, I think, which was the basis for The Night Of.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So it's like basically the guy that created the original series that The Night Of is based on are the ones creating this one in America, but Michael B. Jordan is involved as a producer as well, and it's a crime drama, so should be pretty good. Next up on Tuesday, April 12th, Hard Cell comes to Netflix. This actually looks really funny. Have you seen any of the trailers for this? They've been kind of popping up in my YouTube queue a bunch.
I have not.
It stars Catherine Tate. She was in Doctor Who. And it's basically about a woman's prison, and it's like a comedy that takes place in a woman's prison.
Okay.
It looks pretty funny from what I've seen of it, so I'm excited to see that. And she plays multiple roles. We were talking about that last week, about the return of actors playing multiple roles in a show or a movie, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So Catherine Tate apparently plays multiple roles in this as well, so that's cool. Then also on Tuesday, April 12th, 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim comes to Nintendo Switch. This is already out on PS4, I believe. I think that's it, right? It's just PS4 right now.
Yeah, it's just PS4, so Switch is the next platform.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I love Vanillaware games. So I really was hoping that this would come to Switch, and then I think it was announced like last year, and I was like super psyched when I found out. So this is going to be my next Switch game that I'm going to be playing through. Once I finish Triangle Strategy, I'll be jumping on to 13 Sentinels. Next up on Thursday, April 14th, Killing It comes to Peacock. This actually looks, premise-wise, sounds good. It's about a prison guard. He's in an Uber, and his Uber driver tells him about hunting pythons, how like pythons are like an invasive species, and they pay a bounty for every python you kill. So he becomes a python killer, and this stars Craig Robinson.
Okay, that's gonna be hilarious.
Craig Robinson hunting pythons, and he's a prison guard who's hunting pythons on the side.
Yeah, you just know that's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it's called Killing It, too. Yeah, everything about that sounds awesome. That's April 14th on Peacock. Then on Friday, April 15th, Anatomy of a Scandal comes to Netflix. This is the first of the David E. Kelly produced shows. There was a while ago, remember, Netflix basically like made these huge like 8-figure contracts with like a bunch of like prolific showrunners like Shonda Rhimes and Ryan Murphy, and one of the showrunners that got picked up there was David E. Kelly,
right?
Who did like Picket Fences and
we
Boston Legal, all those shows. He's a really famous guy. He's been famous for like 30 years basically on television. This is his first of his Netflix shows. It's a British sexual consent scandal story. So I'll have to see what that is. Also on Friday, April 15th, Outer Range comes to Amazon Prime. This looks interesting because at first glance, this looks like Amazon's version of Yellowstone, like the Paramount Plus series with Waterworld. What's the actor?
Waterworld, Kevin Costner?
Yeah, the Kevin Costner series.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yellowstone. It looks like Yellowstone, but it's got Josh Brolin, so it's Thanos Yellowstone. But then if you watch the trailer for it, it takes a weird twist where there's some kind of a supernatural thing going on. So it makes it kind of
time traveling.
Well, there's something with like weird symbols carved into some of the rocks around the land, and then some weird stuff starts happening. So it's like a supernatural Yellowstone starring Thanos. So yeah, I think that looks interesting. I'm going to have to check that out when that comes to Amazon Prime on April 15th. And then lastly, also on Friday, April 15th, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore comes to movie theaters with Mads Mikkelsen, one of our favorite actors from Hannibal himself, taking over for Johnny Depp in the role of Grindelwald, the primary antagonist.
Is an upgrade.
Yes. So, and reviews have been coming in, have been pretty much universally praising Mikkelsen's portrayal. So yeah, I'm a Harry Potter fan, so that's a big one for me. I'm excited to see. I know you're not, so.
Not really.
So you can just be happy for Mads that he's got a
I'll be happy for Mads. That he's still working.
Yes.
Because he is awesome. Okay.
And then that brings us to our final segment, full spoilers. Full Spoilers is, of course, where we talk about what a show we've been watching, show, movie, game, whatever, but in full spoilers. This week we're talking about episode 2 of Moon Knight, Summon the Suit, in which we get to see a different version of the suit. Really spiffy, swanky, spiffy version.
This was a really cool episode. Basically, what happens is Steven runs into Mark's wife, Layla, who doesn't know what's going on.
We heard her on the phone last week. That was the first appearance of her, was just a voice on the phone.
Apparently doesn't know that Mark has an alter ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's tied into, she knows about the Scarab, and she knows about the adventures that Mark's got, but she doesn't know about...
She knows about Khonshu and about the suit, but she doesn't know much else.
Yeah, yeah.
Because apparently what I'm gathering from this is that prior to the beginning of the series, Mark has met Khonshu, become Moon Knight, and had been having adventures involving being Moon Knight and involving Khonshu, for who knows how long, with Steven being completely dormant or contained this entire time. And now Steven
was created in this time frame.
Yeah, because suddenly Steven wakes up and you have Khonshu and Mark complaining about this guy now, seriously? They're confused by it too.
Yeah. I think he was created, that Steven was created prior to the series, and that Mark's the primary alter.
That's what I think too.
And I think that one of the signs of that is that when Layla is at his house, at Steven's house, or his flat, she finds a book of poetry, and it's like French poetry, and she's reading it, and then he's reading it too, or reciting it, and he says that's my favorite poet, and she says, no, it's not, it's my favorite poet.
And then he's well versed in Egyptian, and she is as well, and then that's when it kind of clicks that he has aspects of Mark's wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mark created this persona, this alter of Steven, and was using aspects of his wife to inform it.
Yeah, exactly.
It would also make sense why Steven's relatively gentle towards Mark, whereas Khonshu's no, fuck him.
Yeah.
You said he wouldn't get in the way. Fuck him. Whereas Mark's kind of patient and gentle with Steven.
To a point. He really loses his shit with Steven at the end of this.
Towards the end.
Mark has quite the temper, actually.
Well, we're seeing that Mark is in a kind of desperate situation.
Yeah.
We see that he owes Khonshu. It seems like they implied that he was all but dead or something, that he owes him a great thing. It seems like maybe he was in a military operation, maybe he was in Egypt or somewhere else in the Middle East. He was basically on death's door and was revived and saved by Khonshu, and now he owes Khonshu for that.
Yeah, a debt. And Khonshu is trying to bribe him to continue in his service even beyond what he owes, because Khonshu's holding that over his head, where he's after this we're done. Contra's well, there are many more things for you to do. And he's no, we're done after this. That was the deal. He's Well, yeah, but then I could get somebody else to be my avatar, somebody close to you, like your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically threatening him, saying, hey, you stay with me or, I'm going to put your wife through this.
Yeah, so we're getting these dynamics of like Khonshu's role and everything that's going on with this deal he has with Mark, his interest in Mark's wife, but then also we find out, apparently, we don't know for sure, according to Arthur, played by Ethan Hawke, that he himself was Khonshu's avatar before Mark was.
That's what Arthur claims, yeah. And Arthur's like trying to sell Steven that Khonshu is not this great person that you should be following. And when you see like Khonshu, when you see his interactions, you kind of get a sense that, yeah, maybe Arthur has a point.
Yeah. The idea is basically that he's saying that Khonshu lies, but he's also saying that everything that Khonshu does is like ineffectual. Like it doesn't actually change the world because he only punishes people that have already acted on the things that they were going to do. So you're not actually helping anybody or saving anybody. You're only like punishing people after the fact, after it's already happened.
Well,
that's
what
was going to happen already.
Well, this
happened.
is the thing. Like, I don't think Arthur left Khonshu because he thought Khonshu was an asshole. He has a philosophical disagreement with Khonshu, whereas he wants to prevent the evil from happening in the first place. So he wants to be like Minority Report and be like, oh, okay, this guy's going to do like something evil in the future. Let's kill him right now.
Yeah.
And Khonshu,
we got a hint of that last week.
And Khonshu, his whole thing is like, well, he punishes evildoers. People have to do the evil before they're considered evildoers. You know, and that's the philosophical rift. It's not because Arthur didn't leave Khonshu because Khonshu was an asshole necessarily,
Yeah. It seems like Arthur and Khonshu came to an impasse.
Yeah.
And it was probably something that was promised to Arthur that Khonshu didn't deliver on. And then on top of it, Arthur just ended up feeling that Khonshu was ineffectual and was growing frustration and had like a complete riff with Khonshu and just went and jumped teams.
To this goddess who probably approached him while he was questioning his place with Khonshu, and seduced him to her side.
Yeah, we got hints of this goddess's philosophy last week when we saw the scene in like that village, I think in like Austria, I think it was, where we saw him judge two people. First he judged a guy and judged him as a good man and that was it. And then he judged this old lady and she was like, I haven't done anything wrong. When he judged her bad. And he's like, I believe you. He's like, but she sees the whole. So it could be something that you're going to do. And then he says, I wish you could see this world we're going to build. And that kind of ends up becoming like his line that he says before killing anybody.
Yeah.
Because he kills somebody else afterwards, like in this episode.
Yeah.
When he gets the scarab, he like buys it off of some, like, I think it was like a homeless guy or something.
He doesn't buy it. He just takes it. He just says, so that belongs to me, but you can have like food or shelter and stuff. And then he just kills them. And he says, I wish you could see the world that we're trying to build or something. Mm-hmm. I wish you could see the world that we're going to build.
Yeah. So now we have like kind of his line, Arthur's kind of like line, tied to his philosophy and probably what he uses to justify his killing. Cause it didn't even seem like he went through the whole like judging ritual on that guy. He just killed him, which shows like maybe that his methods aren't as pure as he seems to think they are, or as he pretends they are. That he just like, kills this guy because he's kind of in the way rather than because he did anything or was going to do anything. So we also had a moment where Steven and Arthur were talking. Arthur was showing him kind of around where his people were saying like how, there's so much crime on the street and now there's no crime and everybody helps each other. And it's like this kind of like, kind of creepy cult-like utopia environment or something. And he's taking around and everybody seems friendly except for the fact that they kidnapped him previously. And it gets to a point though where Arthur mentions kind of his goddess's will and the fact that they judge people and they act out vengeance on people before they've done a crime or something. And Steven gets stuck on the idea of children. It's kind of like the old Hitler time travel dilemma, of like, would you kill baby Hitler? He hasn't done anything and he's a baby. And it's like the same kind of idea. It's like, so if you come across a child and that child could potentially end up doing something wrong, you're going to murder an innocent child?
And Arthur's response is kind of like, the cure for the disease is a taste of the disease, indicating that, he totally would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Steven is just not cool with that. And so what ends up happening, and this episode is really cool because we get to see Steven assume the Moon Knight identity and not Mark.
With a nice spiffy suit.
With a nice spiffy suit. What? Because they say, like, put on, because Khonshu, like, yells at Steven, like, yeah, Steven's falling. He says, put on the suit.
Said, summon the suit, yeah.
And then, summon the suit. And, like, he's like, okay, suit! You know, and, like, it ends up being, like, this dress suit. And that's just because, like Steven has no idea what he's talking. He just heard suit, and that's what he thought of.
This is based on, I think, one of the alters in the comic books.
Oh, really?
So in the Moonlight comic book, because they showed in the trailer, they showed him in one of the trailers, they showed him in that suit, and I saw people comparing it, and there was like a panel from a comic book with Moon Knight in a suit like that. And I think in the comics, it's like an alter that wears that suit. It's one of his alters. And here they kind of played it differently. They kind of played it as like, rather than that this is like an established Moon Knight alter that uses this version of the suit, they made it like, oh, this is Steven grasping at the idea of a suit. Like, what would Khonshu's suit be? And he has to like materialize it. And then that plays into the idea that this isn't just like the Moon Knight suit isn't just some like universal thing that looks the same no matter what. It's like, this is how it can be affected by how you envision it.
Right,
as the wearer, you know, and that's how he envisions it. I really like the scene where, well, first off, we found out that the jackals that get summoned by Arthur are like invisible to everybody except Steven. Like nobody else can see them. And when he summons that suit and a jackal comes after him, Layla is like, what's going on? She can't see what's going on. She ends up like attacking the jackal, but only based on where Steven is fighting it. So like if Steven's holding it in a certain way, she's like, okay, well, the body must be here and she can attack it there. So she attacks it a few times and gets like a brief kind of shimmer glimpse of him, of the jackal, just because like, you know, happens to get it with its mouth open or some random thing that somehow makes some aspect of it somewhat visible. But I love that Steven in the Moon Knight suit like rolls up his sleeves and kind of takes like an old like pugilist stance to like box the jackal or whatever. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was hilarious. He gave a good punch. It becomes clear really quickly that Steven is not cut out to be Moon Knight.
Yeah.
You know, he's just not very effectual.
Yeah.
For the job.
He's got the strength, like he literally rips like a bumper off a car, you know?
Yeah,
and is able to use it as a weapon. So he's got like the abilities to come with Moon Knight. But the idea here is that Mark's like a mercenary. He doesn't just have all these Moon Knight abilities and these strengths. He's also like a skilled,
right.
Like even before he had the Moon
Steven
Knight,
has
the threat.
Steven has access to powers, but like all he managed to do was get a good punch in.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Mark, on the other hand, was already like a significant threat before the suit, you know?
Right, yeah.
And so
exactly.
with the suit, he's even more so. And so we get to see, you know, Mark eventually takes on the old Moon Knight suit, the regular Moon Knight suit again, and leads the jackal away across the roof and like in a badass scene, like impales the jackal on like a statue.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah. So this is just, it's continuing to kick ass. I think I like the first episode more just because I really like the way they did that all the stuff with like Steven like zoning out and then like coming to and like with everything around him all like in chaos. Like I really dug that aspect of it, which obviously they can't continue that forever because now that he's aware, you have to kind of show what's going on during those moments, but it's still really good. I still really enjoyed it quite a bit. And I still think that Oscar Isaac is a force to be reckoned with in the MCU. And I'm glad that he's there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely looking forward to more Moon Knight for sure.
Anything else to say before we close out the discussion?
No, that covers everything.
Yeah. Well, Khonshu's cool too.
Yeah, visually, yeah. Oh, I know that.
He's visually cool, but it's also, you know, F. Murray Abraham is doing a great job as his voice, making him kind of like, you'd mentioned, he kind of like borders that line where you don't know if he's actually like the good god or if he's kind of shit or somewhere in between.
Right, there's a lot of mystery there.
Yeah, but that makes it fun. And I guess the last thing we could say is that the episode ends with Arthur having gotten the scarab back, and now they're trying to cut him off before he can achieve his objective of resurrecting the goddess, and it shows Stephen in Egypt.
Yeah.
Or not Stephen, Mark in Egypt, ready to kind of take on the next fast. So we've moved now from London to Egypt in the story.
Right.
That's that. That was Moon Knight episode 2, Summon the Suit. Next week, we're going to talk about Moon Knight again. We'll talk about episode 3. So thank you everybody for listening. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. You can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, as I had mentioned. You can follow our SoundCloud page where our podcasts are posted every week. If you want to find the links to any of that, the best bet is just to go to our website, thetotalscreen.com, open up one of the podcast container stories, and you'll see all the links in there to everything related to the podcast that you need in the last paragraph of the container story. So check all of that out. Leave us comments. Best places on Twitter, good, bad, or indifferent. We'd love to hear anything you want to say. If you want us to take a question or answer something on the air, on the podcast, just send us a tweet and we'll include that in the show. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Night.
Thank you for listening to the On-Screen Podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.